Hey everybody, a question I get asked often is, what is my favorite technique in finalizing and finishing up, say, like a portrait? So we're going to take an image that was shot in RAW that looks like this, and then we'll make some minor adjustments to crop it to make it look like this. But then the technique of finishing it off, it will be like this. Are we ready for this? Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and being a photo artist, creatively thinking out of the box. All right, that out of the way, let's jump into the program. And that is, I get asked quite often, even when I was on tour teaching Photoshop for years, how do I get that polished look in, say, portrait photography? And so the method I'm going to share with you was taught to me by Joel Grimes, who is a commercial photographer, a great career. I have the privilege of not only studying under Joel for quite a few years, but also working with him a couple times in the past, and really learned a lot. So we're going to talk a little bit about what I learned from him and the importance of how I'm shooting that photograph. But let's dive into this and take a look at the techniques. Now, in Photoshop, I'm just going to double click on my workspace. And I'm going to select these two images. One's a raw file, the other is a texture. So we're going to talk about the raw file here in a minute. But when I click on Open in the Open dialog box, because there's a raw file there, it has to open it up in Camera Raw to be processed. And so in Photoshop, this is our Camera Raw. And I'm not going to, this is not a tutorial on Camera Raw. It's just that I remember the client wanted a 5:7 image here. Why she chose this one, I don't know, but there's the crop tool here that we have in Camera Raw. I'm just going to choose a preset. She wanted a 5:7, and I'm going to just adjust this. And I think it was normally probably about this size right here. We'll just adjust that, hit enter on the keyboard. Now, I'm not going to make any selections. The exposure looks good enough to me, but that's all subjective. It's based on, your image, your lighting, what was going on, if you're going to do any kind of adjustment here in Camera Raw. Now, what I'm going to do here is talk about the background for a moment. When you're working with textures, you want to have a neutral gray background to get the best results. And that's what I learned from Joel Grimes. So now I'm just going to come down here to the bottom and click on Open. And that opens up the image in Photoshop. Now, if we take a look at the texture, I'd like to bring that texture over to the image. So I'm just going to grab my Move tool. If it's not activated, V like in Victor grabs the Move tool, or right here, in our toolbar, at the very top of the toolbar, you'll see the Move tool. I'm just going to click down here, drag to the tab over here, and come down and let go. And it'll make a copy of that for me right here. Make the adjustment. Let's Control T, Command T on a Mac to activate the free transform tool. Just want to make sure it's covering the entire image. And then enter on the keyboard. Okay, so with that out of the way, what I want to do is notice that the texture I have here is basically neutral gray with darker grays in it, but you could, if you want, use textures that have color in it to work with this. But the key thing is having a neutral gray background in your shot to get the best results. So again, this was photographed with a portable backdrop in the client's actually garage during the summer months. And what I want to do is select the original image here. That's really important first, because what I want to do is select the subject. Now, if you don't have this opened already, under Window drop-down menu, toward the bottom, there's something called Contextual Taskbar. Mine's already activated, and I have it docked right here in the option bar. So I can just conveniently choose Select Subject. There's other areas that we could choose to get the Select Subject buttons, but I'm just going to choose it right there. And it should do a pretty good job because we're dealing with a plain background and we have good contrast between the subject and the background. Now, with that done, I'm going to activate the very top layers So we're going to select this area here to activate the eyeball so we can see this. There's our active selection. And before I add a mask down here by clicking on this button here, I'm going to hold the Alt key down. That would be Option on a Mac. Click on the mask icon, and it creates a mask. Now, if you remember the way a mask works, if we take a look at this right here, so let's take a look at the mask. White reveals, black conceals. So in this example, the black is hiding the texture. It's concealing the texture. But the thing is, when we look at this really close, so I'm going to zoom in because here's what I like to do. I like to look at the hair, and it did a really good job. But if I turn the texture on and off, I can see it, it cut into the hair a little bit. That doesn't look bad, but I lost a lot of the fine hairs. And so what I want to do is with this selected right here, this layer, I'm going to go to blending mode, and I found that darken works the best. So when I do that, hopefully you saw the difference between there's normal and there's darken. So see how it brought back some of the hairs, fine hairs especially. I'm not sure that it's going to show up on video for you, but we take a look at this before and after right there. Hopefully that darken one, you'll see a little bit more versus normal blending mode. See how that cut in? So this is the darken blending mode. Now I'm not finished with this. Let me pull back on the image so we can see this. And I'm going to zoom in right here on the edge. Now sometimes this will happen. It's based on your image. Now this one came out fine. But if there was a bit of a halo here, here's what I would end up doing. So I would pull back here so we can see the entire image. If there was a halo, which does happen once in a while, I would select the mask right here. And in fact, I'm going to show you the mask, what's going on here. But I would select the mask. And before I do that, let me go back here. I'm on the mask. I want to grab my lasso tool. So it's the freeform lasso tool. So L for the lasso tool. And what I want to do is select the area that's not his hair. It's everything but the hair. So I'm going to go around the subject. Ooh, didn't do a good job. Right, cut in there. And there's my selection. So you see I sort of screwed up down here. I'm going to hold the Shift key down just to add to that selection. And same thing in the lower left-hand corner, just to be on the safe side. Okay, so that added to the selection. And a little bit more there. Okay, now that that is selected, if I go here, now remember the rule of a selection. Oh, I missed some over there. Look at that. So Shift, click and drag. Okay, so we got a little bit more. So what I'm trying to do is I'm selecting the entire mask area except the hair. I don't want the hair to be selected. And remember the rule is no matter how you make a selection, whatever you do next affects the selected area only. So as an example, I'm going to go to Filter drop-down menu here, and I'm going to choose Blur. And I'm going to choose a Gaussian blur. And when I choose a Gaussian blur, I'm going to go about 2 pixels, which is, okay, that's fine there. But let me click on OK here. It looked like my mouse was stuck. But what that did was it softens up the edge. So hopefully this shows. Let me zoom in on that. So if there was a halo, I activate this first to make a slight fuzziness there. And then what I'm going to do is Control L, Command L on a Mac. Now make sure you're on the mask. So again, Control L, Command L. Watch what happens to the edge. As I move these sliders, see how that's cutting in and out, but it's only doing that in the selected area. So the hair area around the student's face and that is not going to be affected. And again, I could move the, that slider here and the slider over here, so just to fine tune that. So let me just cancel this for a moment and show you what that looks like once I'm off the mask. And let me do, again, Control L, Command L on a Mac. Watch what happens if we can focus on the edge here. As I'm moving the slider back and forth, it's very subtle, but Hopefully you can see the changes. Yeah, if I push this way to the right, you can see the halo. But this is cutting in, and this will help get rid of any kind of halo. Make your adjustment to get your neat, to make it look the way you want it to be. Then click on OK. Control D, Command D on a Mac just to deselect my selection there. And that should clean up everything. And there's a good clean look with the texture. Now, with that done, I typically do this a lot. I need a visible stamp layer at the very top. So again, I've talked about visible stamp layers in the past. I'm at the very top of my stack here in layers. Shift Control Alt E like an Edward creates a visible stamp layer. Now, if you're on a Mac, that should be Shift Command Option E like an Edward. And again, that will give you that stamp layer. And the reason I want that there is I'm going to go to blending mode in layers, and I'm going to choose multiply. You've seen me use this a lot, and it just darkens everything a little bit for me. I'm going to add a mask to this. Grab my paintbrush, B for brush, or if you don't do shortcut keystrokes, there's the brush feature right there in the toolbar, and adjust the size by just using your right square bracket or left square bracket keys. I'm making sure it's a soft edge brush. And I see I'm at 30% opacity. If you're not, just change that to 30% or tap on the number 3 on your keyboard, and that should make that at 30%. And now I'm just going to go over, just make sure I'm painting in black on the mask, and I'm just going to highlight these areas here by just painting in to bring back part of the original image. And it's just going to go over the face quite a bit, but less around the rest of the image. Almost looks like he's backlit there in the background. And then I'm going to go over here to the feather feature in properties. So again, I'm in properties here, and under feather, again, I'm on the mask. It's feathering out that a bit. And then maybe just go back on the face a little bit right there. And then there's a before, and after. Maybe just add a little bit more to the bottom there. Again, this is all based on personal taste. But there we go. I went from that right there to this right here. Whoops, I'm sorry about that. Let's get this back. And we went to this. Okay, so again, the before and after would be that to that. By the way, if you're learning anything, please do me a favor. If you could like this video, subscribe if you've not subscribed, and hit that notification bell. The next time I upload a video, you'll get notified. If you have any questions regarding this, please feel free to email me or make comments on YouTube if you want. But if you want to, do an email that goes to my private email address, it's right here at the bottom of the screen. It is stephenphotoartist@gmail.com. So feel free to do that. If you have any ideas for future videos, please, that's where I'm getting a lot of these ideas from, is you people sending me these private emails, making suggestions. So I really appreciate that. And then the very last thing is if you'd like to support the channel, because this is not monetized, it is not sponsored by anybody. If you could go to buymeacoffee.com/StephenPhotoArtist. I'll have the links in the show notes and that for you. $3 to donate a coffee. It's on a volunteer basis. It's not a membership, so you don't have to do this every month. It's just whenever you feel like it. I really appreciate the ones that have been doing this in the past. Okay, so with that out of the way, hopefully you learned something here, and let's try this technique. If you have a portrait you've done in the past, or get out there and let's do a portrait. Get that camera out, right? And try this technique. Again, until next time, see ya.